Hi guys, so I hope I'm not too lopsided. Hope I'm good in the frame. So I really don't know how to start this. I just figured it may just be time to do this already. I want to zoom in a little bit more. So I did a video of talking about like my depression, which I did take down. I don't know if I'll put it back up. It was very controversial. Yeah, it just caused a lot of, problems. Not really problems, but yeah. It was a lot more than I expected to get, like a lot of feedback, I guess. I got a lot of feedback from it that was just too much for me to take in all at that time that I posted it, so I took it down so I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. Maybe I'll put it back up. It seemed to have helped some people, but it just kind of, I don't know, didn't really help me, which was kind of what I was doing it for. I mean, I wanted to help other people, of course, but like I also wanted to help myself, of course. So I just took it down for now. Maybe I'll put it back up, but this is kind of going to be a similar video. It hopefully won't be as like dark and dramatic and all that, but I want to talk about my anxiety. But I'm going to talk about my anxiety. I haven't had anxiety like what I'm about to talk about my entire life. I've only had it for a couple of years, since June 2016, I think it was. I've had June, July of 2016. I've had pretty bad anxiety. Anxiety attacks, that sort of thing. I don't really know how to start this, how to get into it. I guess I'm just going to kind of tell you how it probably started for me, because I think I know why I just started getting anxiety attacks. So June of 2016, I was on vacation visiting my family, and my family member was going in for surgery. It's just supposed to be like a routine surgery, like, I don't know. People say that that's not a thing, like surgery isn't routine, but it was supposed to be routine surgery. And she had some issues with, I don't really know exactly what it was, but she ended up in the ICU and had to be transferred to another hospital. But while she was still in the ICU, before she was transferred to another hospital, we were all going in to like say hi and like goodbye and like good luck and I love you and all that stuff. So I got my chance to go into the room and I started feeling not well. I started, like, my vision started going. I just felt shaky and weak and cold, and I just couldn't stand upright on my own, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go stand out in the hallway. So I was standing in the hallway, and I caught my breath for a couple of seconds, and I thought I was gonna be okay. But then the rest of my family followed me out of the room, and they were like, okay, let's go back to the waiting room, and I was like, okay, I'm not ready yet, like, I need a second to breathe. But I was like, okay, let's go. So I was walking with them, and all of a sudden I grabbed onto like my one aunt and my grandma, and I was holding on to them, and I was like, I don't feel good. And that's all I said was, I don't feel good. And they were like, okay, let's just get back to the waiting room. And I think they thought like I was gonna be sick, like I was gonna throw up. And I just ended up passing out, like I fainted. I was on the ground in the ICU hallway in this hospital. Yeah, I just fainted. So I don't really know how long I was out. I don't think I was out that long. Maybe a minute, like, I don't know. I just know I woke up and I had, like, my aunt was above me, like, smacking my cheek. She's like, Rachel, look at me. Rachel, wake up. Yeah, freaking out, and all my cousins were around me and they were freaking out, but we were right by a nurse's station, so they, like, ran down the hallway like, our cousin just passed out, our cousin just passed out. So I had all these doctors surrounding me, trying to make sure I was okay, and it was just very, very overwhelming. And passing out and fainting has always been like one of my worst fears. I know that might sound crazy to some people, but it just has. Like, it's just my worst fear. Like, I hate it. And then it happened. That was the first time I've ever passed out. But I had all these doctors around me because I was in an ICU hallway, so of course they were like, okay, well, she looks really pale, and me and all my family was like, okay, well, she's really pale as it is, and they're like, no, like, she didn't have any color to her, and they're like, no, this is her normal color. So, like, my family was saying that, so I don't think I really lost a lot of color. But they were like, okay, well, she passed out, like, we need to take her to the ER. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to the ER. Like, that's freaked me out. I was like, I just passed out, like, probably because I hate hospitals. So, they basically were like, do you want to go to the ER? And I said no. And next thing you know, I was in a wheelchair and they were wheeling me to the ER. I was like, hey, well, I just said I didn't want to be here. So I was bawling at this point, and I was thinking I was freaking out the rest of my family members, but like, after you pass out, like, it's just a weird feeling that you're like not used to it, and it just is overwhelming and it's kind of scary, and you just have all these emotions, so you just like I just start crying to release all those emotions, I guess. I was kind of scared, but I was also just like, I just passed out, like, I'm okay. So I was like, why am I crying? Anyway, so they took me to the ER, they had me changed to a gown, they had to get like my billing information, all this stuff, and then they had to take my blood, which I hate getting blood drawn. Whew, it makes me pass out. Like, the first time I ever got blood drawn, I was sitting up, you know, at the tables that you do it, and they take your arm and they draw the blood. So I was sitting, and the nurse was like, oh no, she needs to lie down, she is going to pass out. And at that point in time, I was just like, I didn't really know what the feeling of passing out was. I just knew that my vision was going, I felt cold, but I was just like, okay, this must be normal, like, I'm getting blood drawn, like, this must happen all the time. But the nurse was like, no, she needs to lay down, she's gonna pass out. And so, like, that's kind of how I knew what the feeling was when I was in the hospital. So they were like, we have to take her blood. And I was like, what? They're like, do you like getting blood drawn? And I was like, no, it makes me pass out. And they're like, oh, well, you just passed out. And I was like, yeah, I know, exactly. Like, I don't want you to do my blood. And they're like, okay, well, we have to. So I just kind of had to, like, look away and talk to my Mimi while they were taking my blood. And then they're like, so what about blood being drawn do you not like? I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, I mean, do you not like seeing it? You don't like knowing it's happening? You don't like feeling it? I was like, I just don't like any of it. I really don't want to see it. And they're like, okay, well, we just made a little bit of a mess. What? You did what? Like, you're supposed to be a nurse, a doctor, like, you're not supposed to make a mess of my blood right next to me when I hate seeing it, when I just passed out. They're like, yeah, so just give us a second, like, don't look over here, we'll clean it up. I was like, yeah, you better clean it up. So I was, like, freaking out, and then, they had to do a bunch of tests, like, standing, sitting, can you bend, can you do this, like, I don't know. I don't remember everything, but I know that I had, my nurse come in, and she said, okay, well, while you're standing, because we were doing a test where I was, like, stretching or whatever, she's like, while you're standing, do you think you could pee for me? That was what she said. Do you think you can pee for me? And I was like, in my pants? And she just started cracking up. She's like, no, like, in the toilet. And I was like, oh, yeah, I could probably do that. So I had to go pee in the cup so they could test everything. But, like, I was out of it. I felt so loopy and out of it because I just passed out and I was in the hospital and I had no idea what was happening. I was so out of it that she was just like, why would you use the words, can you go pee for me? Why wouldn't you say go to the bathroom? Like, I don't know. Anyway, that part doesn't matter. So, I finally, you know, come back from the bathroom and there's someone else waiting for me. So while they are taking to get my pee samples, I had another person talking to me. I don't know. Turns out, long story short, they came back and said that I had a bladder infection. I had no symptoms of a bladder infection. I just had a bladder infection. They said I probably was just really freaked out. It was like one of those, what do they call it? I don't know. Something where you just get so worked up that, like, you pass out, like, your body just can't handle it. So it was a mixture of my bladder infection, that just being overwhelmed by being in the hospital and seeing my family member in the hospital room. And I had low potassium, and I think there was something else. Oh, there was, like, they had to take an EKG, and there was just, like, a little thing. They're like, that's no big deal. It's probably literally just because you passed out. So low potassium, they said it was really low, so they made me take like major, like huge pills. I had to take 2 of them before I could leave, before they let me leave, and they were huge, so they had to cut them in half, so I ended up having, and like cut them in half again, so I ended up having to take like 8 pills before I left. It was the worst. So I don't really know why I had low potassium, but I had low potassium and I had a bladder infection, which was really strange. I had no symptoms at all of a bladder infection, a UTI or whatever. No symptoms at all. So anyway, that happened, and I was like, oh, okay, finally get to go home. Whatever, I'm gonna take this medicine. Well, for that whole rest of the trip, I just felt off. Like, I couldn't explain it. I just did not feel good, and I would like, I don't know. It was just a bad trip, but I tried to make the best of it, and I didn't know what it was, and I just thought like it was because I'd passed out and I was on all this like antibiotics and medicine for the UTI. Well, I come back home and I had just started a new job before I left. So I'm at this new job, and I'm working, I'm getting to know people, and then like all of a sudden like I just can't, like, I don't know, spoiler alert, I was having a panic attack. Didn't know that at the time, but I was freaking out, like I couldn't breathe, I felt like my heart was racing, I just couldn't, I like felt really hot, the lights were just like messing with my eyes, and I just couldn't do it, and I had to have my mom pick me up from work and take me to the doctor. That happened 2 or 3 times within 1 month. I think it was twice that my mom had to pick me up from work, and it was like 2 more times I just ended up at the doctor because I thought there was something wrong with me. And every time I went, I was like, well, can you test me for a UTI? Because, like, I don't know, like, maybe that's what it is. The last time I had a UTI, I kind of felt this way. And basically, I went there 4 times in 1 month to the doctor. And they were finally like, there's nothing wrong with you. They did more blood tests to make sure I didn't have, because eventually I went there and I was like, I feel so tired and weak and just not good at all. Like, I just can't do my job. Like, all these different things are like, okay, so we're going to test you for mono, we're going to test you for Lyme disease, we're going to test you for this, we're going to check your thyroid, we're going to get another EKG to make sure, because I told you I had that little thing that the doctors in the other state wasn't worried about, but my doctor here was like, we're just going to double check that. So I had another EKG and I had a bunch of blood work. Everything came back fine, except I was still low potassium, which was, I don't know, strange, because I was obsessing over my potassium. People were like, that's stupid, you don't need to obsess over it, you were just like eating really bad on the trip. Well, I still had low potassium. I was like, see, I'm obsessing for a reason. Anyway, so the doctor was finally like, you've been here so many times, there's nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with you. I think all it is that you're having panic attacks. And that was the first time someone had like mentioned anxiety and like anxiety attacks to me, and I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Like, I'd never experienced one before, so I had no idea that's what it was. But I was having like 2 or 3 a day for however long it took for this doctor to tell me I had panic attacks. So he gave me this pack of papers that had names of therapists, and therapists pretty much is what it was. So I had to go through and choose which one I wanted to go to, because he was like, you need to go to counseling, like, you have to go to therapy. There's some, like, you can't just keep coming to the doctor. Every time you're having a panic attack, you have to learn how to deal with it. So, yeah. So, that's how I ended up in therapy, which was really great. I love my therapist. My therapist is actually the one who's encouraging me to make this video. She says, I've been seeing her for a little over a year now. I see her every couple of weeks. Yeah, she's helped me a lot. She's really great. I love her. And I recommend therapy to anybody. Like, even if you don't have anxiety, like, it's just nice to go talk to somebody who's not going to judge you. Really great. What was I saying? So, that's basically the story of how I started getting panic attacks. I think what happened was I just got freaked out. It was like a PTSD sort of thing, from passing out in a hospital after seeing my family member in a hospital room. That's really what I think it was, because I'd never had panic attacks before, and it was triggered after that. So I really think it was just like a PTSD, because the one thing that I hated the most in the world, that I like feared the most, happened, and most people are like, well, it happened, you survived it, it's not as bad as you thought. It actually ended up being a lot worse than I ever imagined. after passing out. And I know, like, yes, I got through it, I could do it again, but like it's really, really not a good experience, and it just reminded me like why I was scared of it, and like made it worse, so made my fear worse. So that will lead me into what my panic attacks feel like. Basically, it feels like I'm going to pass out, and that's why, another reason why I think that's what triggered my panic attacks to start happening. It feels like they vary from time to time, but for the most part, my heart races a lot, and it feels like I can't breathe. Like no matter how much I'm like, I'm not getting the oxygen. Like I'm just like I'm breathing, but like I'm not getting the relief of the breathing. My eyes kind of go in and out. I get really dizzy. I feel like the room is spinning. I get very, very hot and claustrophobic. I always have to have water bottle on me, water preferably cold, so I can stick it on my body if I get too hot, and I always have a fan. I actually have a fan right here, I'll show you. I have about 4 of these fans. I keep 2 at work, 1 in my purse, and 1 here to charge in case I need to take it somewhere. But it's this fan. I just got off at Amazon, honestly. It's the O-Polar. It has 3 different levels. Super easy. And like a little flashlight, but I never use that. Love this fan. I don't know why I'm giving you a review of the fan, but I always have it with me, basically, and I'm pretty much always using it, and I always have to have my sunglasses because, like I said, like I get very, very sensitive to light. Even like it's overcast right now. If I were having any sort of anxiety today, this overcast would kill. It would kill my eyes. I already have like light eyes, like I have blue eyes, so like they're already sensitive, but being panicked makes it worse, and I can't see. It's just really bad. So I know other people have different types. Like the way I feel during a panic attack is not the way that everybody's going to feel during their panic attack. But you might share some of these feelings. Pretty much that's what it's like. I just feel like I can't breathe, my heart's racing, I am being suffocated, I'm claustrophobic, like I can't have people around me, yet most of the time I want to be around people because I'm afraid I'm going to pass out, and I have a fear that I'm going to pass out and no one's going to find me. Yes, irrational. I get very irrational. So I'm constantly, it sucks because it happens a lot when I'm in the car, and it happens when I'm out in public, like shopping. Sometimes when I'm alone it's the worst, and then at work. So it sucks being like a nuisance to your coworkers when that happens, but like you kind of just have to make sure like you explain to whoever you're with you have anxiety and you have anxiety attacks, and like it affects you in different ways, but for the most part, like I might start, you know, talking. I talk a lot when I'm around people when it's happening. I talk a lot and I like pace back and forth even though like I can't breathe. It just helps me get, like, I have all this energy, and it just helps me get all this energy out. And that's another thing. The doctor told me that the reason I felt so tired and weak all the time was because having a panic attack is like equivalent to having, I think, 2 or 3 shots of espresso. And I can't have caffeine ever. Like any coffee I ever have is decaf because any sort of caffeine will induce a panic attack for me. So he said that having a panic attack takes like as much energy out of you as if you were having like 3 shots of espresso. Like you get that much energy, and then you get like the drain, like the crash of it. And when you have multiple panic attacks a day, that can be very, very taxing on your body. So that's what was happening to me. I stopped having, I was having 2 or 3 a day for a month or 2 or 3. And then I just started having like 1 a day, and I was like, okay, well, let me just get this, like, I would try to make the panic attacks happen so that, like, I knew it would be the last one of the day, like, it would only be 1. I was like, let me just make it happen before I go to work. It doesn't really work that way. It happens when it happens, but I would have 1 a day. Like, it was just guaranteed. I was having 1 a day for months, and then it started being like every other day, and it just got less and less, and now it just happens every so often. I am very anxious every day still. and I might have like little mini panic attacks, but I think because I know now what to expect for my panic attacks, so I kind of know how to, and I'm like prepared for it, so it's less, and I can kind of stop, like when I feel it coming, I can kind of stop it and like talk myself out of it. That's one of the things that I think is very important for anybody who has panic attacks to know, is realize what it feels like for you. What are your symptoms? How do you feel? And what makes you feel better? Sometimes what makes you feel better is like the hardest part, but how can you be prepared for it? Because that will definitely help. It doesn't always stop it. Like, I still have panic attacks sometimes, but it definitely helps knowing, and it's like, okay, I'm just having a panic attack. I'm not actually going to pass out. I'm not actually in danger. I'm just having a panic attack. I just need to let it pass. As bad as it will be, I just need to let it pass, and then I'll be okay. That's what I've kind of learned to do. So if I have one, I just tell anybody I'm with, like, hey, I'm having a panic attack, like, you guys either can go on without me, whatever we're doing, like, you can go on without me and I'll catch up, or, like, you can wait here with me until it passes. It just depends on who I'm with and, like, what we're doing and all that stuff. But yes, so that's how I feel. That's why I think I started getting panic attacks. That's what I think everyone needs to learn how to do if you have panic attacks, is just kind of know yourself, know your body. I feel like I'm pretty good at being in tune with my body, so I don't know, like, I don't know how to help you do that if you're not. Just, I'm good at knowing my body for the most part. For a long time I thought I was having panic attacks because my potassium was low, so, and that would like give me low blood sugar and all that stuff, and it got a lot worse when I was PMSing. When I gonna be a little bit personal. When I used to get my period, I was always really regular, and I was that person who only had it for like a really light cycle for like 3 days. I was really lucky. But my PMS symptoms ended up getting really, really bad after I started having anxiety. I would get nauseous and dizzy all the time. I'd be tired. I would get low blood sugar. I felt like crap all the time, and it would induce even more panic attacks. So finally I went to a gynecologist and was like, okay, this is not happening, like I can't keep doing this. And then I went on birth control to kind of help regulate the PMS symptoms, and ever since then I've had only one period since starting my birth control, which is not how it works for everybody, and it wasn't how it was supposed to work for me. I was still supposed to get it. It was just supposed to help kind of regulate everything, but I guess because I was so regular, that's how it happened. Anyway, so, like, not that you need to know all stuff about, like, my gynecologist visits, but it did help with my PMS symptoms and my anxiety attacks during PMS. So, still helpful for maybe me to tell you. Yeah. So, that's another thing about, like, all those, I don't know, politicians who think that we don't need birth control, we just need to abstain. It's not just for preventing pregnancy, it's not just because we want to be promiscuous, like, it's because it can help with other things. That's why I went on birth control. So, yeah. If you're one of those people watching this, ha! In your face, you are wrong. But anyway, over that. So that's kind of like my anxiety story. I really don't get, now that I say this, I'm gonna have one today, but I really don't get panic attacks very often anymore. Only when I'm like really stressed out and worked up and like I need to eat or I need to sleep. Not on medication. I probably should talk about that. I'm not on medication. All I do is I have my fan, I have my water, I know what to look for, I go to therapy. I'm not saying medication is wrong or bad. It's just not for me. I haven't needed it. I've thought about it a couple of times, but I was like, nah. Like when my anxiety made my depression a lot worse, because that did happen to me. Back when I made that video was when my depression was really bad, and my anxiety wasn't really that bad, but I think because it was just like a cycle. Like I would get depressed because I had anxiety, and then my anxiety over having depression would spiral. It was just a thing, so it got really bad. But that's when I kind of thought about going on medication. I I made that video, the depression video. My mom told her friend about it, and her friend was like, okay, well, someone who has anxiety and depression and is not on medication is like a diabetic refusing insulin. There's something that can help you, but you just refuse to take it. And I thought that was like so dumb. Like, I'm like, I don't know, I was gonna say my depression isn't something that could kill me. We're just gonna go with it's not something that could kill me. My anxiety and depression is not something that could kill me. Whereas if you're diabetic, like that's a real disease, like a disease? I don't know. That's a real health issue that could be very detrimental to somebody's health. So it's totally different. So I just like, I didn't agree with that. But I did think about it and was like, maybe I'll talk about it with my therapist. My therapist was like, I really don't think you need it. It's going to be a lot more hassle and a lot more stress if you decide to go on medication, because you'd have to be doing checkups all the time and making sure that everything is regulated and making sure that you don't need to up your dosage or down your dosage, and then doing that is a pain. So basically she was like, I really think you're doing well. You just need to stick with what you know and keep going. But like I said, that doesn't mean it's not for being medication free is not for everybody. I actually do kind of have a medication now, but it's more so to help me sleep. I really have problems sleeping, which makes my anxiety bad when I don't sleep. So I got a medication that's supposed to, it's an anxiety medication, but it's not one of those like Xanax things that you could get addicted to. It's just a antihistamine, and it's only to help me sleep, so I don't even take it every night. And that was just recent. Anyway, I'm not on medication. What was I saying? I was going on to something. I don't remember. But, yeah. There it is. I'm not on medication. I just kind of know what to look for. I know what to expect. I've had it for so long, I really don't get them very often anymore. But when I do, I kind of can feel it and can stop it. And that took a long time. I'm not saying that's so easy and just like anybody who has anxiety attacks can just know what it's like and stop it. Like, that's not what it's like. You can get, and also, you can get a panic attack at any time for any reason. I have generalized anxiety disorder, so that means it can happen at any time for any reason, like for no reason at all. I can literally be having like the greatest time of my life with my friends, or excited to go on a date or something, and then all of a sudden during the date or on the drive to the date or whatever, I will freak out and have a panic, or I call it freaking out, but like I have a panic attack. Some people could say that's because you're nervous, but like I could be having the time of my life and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're gonna have a panic attack right now. It's like, okay, hold on, let me pause this really great moment in my life to have a panic attack and I'll be right back with you. Yeah, that's the worst, is when you have to explain it to somebody that you're with and they're like, am I making you anxious? Am I making you nervous? That happened to me one time. I was on a date and I had to kind of explain that. It was the worst. It was the worst. I was like, yeah, so I'm gonna have a panic attack real quick and I'll be right with you. Like, I was in the car, like, so I couldn't leave. I was just like, I'm just gonna zone out and have it. And they're like, did I do something wrong? Like, am I making you nervous? And I felt so bad because I was like, no, this just happens a lot and it has nothing to do with you. It was like, oh, reliving that now is just like the worst. That was like probably, I won't say the worst time of my life, but that particular date could have gone a lot better if I had just realized that I shouldn't have been dating with anxiety. So, but that's also a mean thing to say, that you can't date when you have anxiety. But for me, at that point in time, I should have realized that this is something I should have held off on at least until a day when I felt less anxious. Like that whole day, I was anxious. So I probably should have told the guy ahead of time, like, hey, I'm feeling sick. Like, this isn't going to be a good idea. Can we take a rain check? Like, I still want to go out with you. But, like, I didn't do that. So the date ended up, it was a pretty good date, but I was just not in the right mindset, so I sabotaged it in my head, and just made it I made it up to be a bad date in my head, and then because of that, I didn't go out again, and I really, really, really liked this guy for a really, really long time, so I just really, like, set myself up for failure, and I kind of damned that relationship to hell because of my anxiety on the first date. Yeah, So if you're watching this and you know who you are, I'm very, very sorry that happened, but it happened and I couldn't help it. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not, like, you can't help when it happens. Like, it just happens at any point, at any time, and you just kind of gotta roll with it. It's not gonna kill you. Don't let it kill you. When I say that, like, people might think, like, oh, but people commit suicide because of this. Please don't do that. Please, please, please don't think that that's the only way out of it. It's not. If you really need to, go on medication. If you like, talk to somebody. If you don't go to a therapist, don't go straight to medication. Go straight to a therapist, because you can learn a lot from them. Like, I feel like I kind of, like, I don't want to say I didn't learn anything from my therapist, because I did, but, like, I kind of just had to roll with myself, like, and learn it for myself. I think I went to therapy and I knew exactly what I was going to tell her, like, talk to her about every time I went, because when I'd go in, the first thing she always asks is there anything that was, like, bothering you or you wanted to talk about when you were on your way in? And a lot of times I was like, yeah, like, I had it all planned out, like, this is what we're going to talk about today. I think because of that, I was able to kind of answer my own questions. I would, like, tell her something and, like, hope that she could help me with a response, but then I would always be like, so that's how I feel, and I don't know what to do about it, and blah, 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 and then it'd be, like, a very, very brief pause where I'm, like, waiting for her to answer, and she's about to answer, and I'm like, but I think I figured it out, and she was like, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So it really helped me, like, think through my own emotions and my own thoughts, and in a lot of different aspects of my life, it helped me do that. Like, I'm now able to kind of, and it took a long time. Like I said, like, this didn't just happen the first time I went to therapy, but, like, talking to somebody really helps you kind of learn your own emotions. So I was really bad at talking about my emotions and, like, telling other people about them especially, and now it's a lot easier for me to kind of talk about it and work through it. I still have trouble, but, you know, it's helpful. So if you have anxiety, depression, I don't know, all those other things, I hate saying that, any sort of mental health that you want to talk through, go see a therapist. Totally. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I hate, like, how people think that there's such a bad thing about saying, like, I see a therapist, like, I'm in therapy. Like, yeah, I am in therapy. There's nothing wrong with it. It helps me be a normal person and be able to be productive in my everyday life. Why is that a problem? So, this has been really long. I didn't mean for it to be very long. I hope I got through all my points, and I hope this is helpful for you. Yeah. My therapist encouraged me to make this. Ever since she found out I had a YouTube channel, she was like, just make a video and help people. I'm like, that's not a bad idea, because then, like, I get to talk through what I'm feeling, and it's, like, talk therapy for me to tell you guys this, but it's also helpful because I watched a lot of videos like this, and they always helped me. And I hate that cliche that says, like, you're not alone, like, you're not the only one who feels this way, but it can help when it really, it's so cliche to say it, and I hate saying it, but, like, it does help you understand that, like, people do understand. Just because you don't work with the people who understand, there are people out there who understand how you feel, and they may have been dealing with it longer than you. So if you, like, listen to them or try and reach out and talk to them, they might be able to help you, give you tips and advice on either how to deal with someone who doesn't understand your anxiety. I should talk about that, because that was a big deal. Family members and coworkers and friends who just didn't understand my anxiety. I kind of talked about that when, like, you just kind of have to explain it to them. But for a long time, when I was first going through panic attacks, I didn't understand them, and it was happening multiple times a day. I would literally cry through them, like, bawl, and, like, it was really bad, and I ended up having people tell me that I needed to stop being so dramatic, and I needed to just pull myself together and, like, get out of it, and, like, just be happy. Like, don't stress about it, don't worry, just be happy. Like, yeah, thank you. Let me just be happy. Like, you don't think I tried that? I hate being, like, rude to people, because, like, I know for the most part they didn't mean any harm, but it wasn't helpful at all. So that's another thing. Like, if you know somebody who has anxiety, and you just don't really understand it. Like, yeah, I didn't understand it at first either, but it happens and it sucks and I can't control it. I can try, like I said, I do all those things to try and help me prepare and control it, but it's still gonna happen. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I can make it a little bit less by doing all those things, but if the family member or friend or whoever who's going through it doesn't understand how to help theirs, like prepare for theirs yet, there's nothing you can do about it. You can maybe help them talk through it and be like, okay, well, did you feel anything the same as last time? So then you can maybe prepare for that. Like, you can try and be a nice person and help them through that part, but for the most part, they're going to have to learn that on their own, and you're just going to have to stick with them and deal with it and know that they are not doing this to spite you, and they're not doing this to make your life harder. Like, they aren't doing this because they want to. It just happens. I'm getting very stuffed up in my nose. It's hard to breathe. So, anyway, I'm gonna just end it there. If you want me to do any more in depth, if you have any questions about this, any advice, any tips, or if you want me to give you advice and tips on what I know, I pretty much gave you everything I know. I'm not an expert. I've only had anxiety for about 2 years. It's going on 2 years. It's kind of a long time, but I'm not an expert, like I said. It's only been 2 years. I'm just telling you what I know and what I think could be helpful for an everyday normal person who didn't understand it at first. And my hair. Anyway. Oh, here's another thing. If you ever have any worries or any problems, I used to carry around a notebook. I still do, actually. And I just write. I just write everything, anything, whatever. Like when I was at work and I was having when I first started getting panic attacks when I was at my job and I had no idea what to do, I would grab a scrap piece of paper and I'd doodle, or I'd just write. And a lot of times it's like, my therapist always told me it was about being in the present. It's mindfulness. It's just being present. You know, you don't want to worry about what happened in the past, and you don't want to worry about something that hasn't happened yet. You need to be in the present. And that was like, that's the hardest thing for me still, but it's gotten better. So what I would do is I would take a notebook and I would write, today is, and I would literally put, let's say today is Wednesday, April 25th at 10:47 a.m. This is what I am doing right now. This is what I did all day. And it kind of like when I was writing out, I literally would just write out what happened all day. I'm just like, I woke up, I ate breakfast. Like, I would literally write that down. And that sounds so stupid, but it helped me kind of like think, maybe this is where something went wrong. Like, probably not. But I could like kind of go through it and see if there's anything, like I was running late, that makes me anxious. You know, I ate something crappy for me, or like I drank coffee, like maybe it wasn't decaf, maybe that's why I'm anxious. Like I was just like, and also just writing it and then being like, and now I am here. It's kind of like that. I would always write that, and like, now this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, now I'm here. It was just, it kind of really helped to ground me and be like, this is where I am. Like, I'm in the present. I'm not worried about what happened back then. I wrote it all out, so I don't have to worry about it, and I'm not worried about what's happening tomorrow, because anything can change. That was one thing I had to learn. I was so bad at this, and I still am sometimes, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better. You really cannot control the future in any way. Like, okay, maybe there are some ways you can plan, but like, anything can happen. And that might make people more anxious to know that anything can happen, but cliches are cliches for a reason. You know? They are. You just gotta take it one step at a time. And that's really, really hard. I know, but just the more you talk yourself through it, write it out, any problem, even if like, I stopped writing out like today is, and this is what I did, like I stopped writing that out, and now I just write out, if I have a problem with somebody, or if I have an issue, or if I'm anxious about something in the future, I write it out. I will write a letter. I think it's one of those things on Oprah, like you write out a letter to somebody and you don't send it. Sometimes I have sent letters because I needed to, for certain reasons, personal reasons. Maybe I'll go into that later, probably not. But for the most part, I don't send it. I just write out all my, like I had, I don't really want to go into this, but like, let's just go with relationship issues. You can take that as friendships, you can take that as boyfriends, you can take that as like, I don't know, relationship issues. You take it as family. I had problems. I had a lot of issues, like, not really, I guess I had a lot of problems, but like I had a lot of feelings and emotions about something that like didn't feel like I could tell the person I had a problem with. So I would write it out. I wrote it out. I wrote so many. I started calling them like journal entries and like diary entries, which makes me feel like a little kid, but like I would just write it out, and I would write, it might be pages, it might be half a page, it might be 5 pages long. I just wrote until I'm like, okay, I feel better now. It really helps. It really helps. At least it helps me. It may not help you, but try it out. See if it works, because I told my therapist the other day, I walked in and I was like, so I wrote a letter, and she's like, you do that a lot, don't you? And I was like, yeah, and she's like, well, it helps you, so you should maybe write another letter, because I was like, I wrote a letter and this is how I feel and I still don't feel good. She's like, well, maybe write another one. And I was like, okay, I will. And then it helped. It really did. Write as many letters as you need to until you feel better. That's what I do. That's something you can try. Anyway, this video is getting way long. I'm telling you as much as I can, but I'm gonna have to edit this and it's gonna be a disaster. So anyway, I hope this helped. I hope this helped. Leave any questions you might have, comments, anything like that in the comment section below. I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to know if you want me to go any more in depth, or if you're like, Rachel, shut up, stop talking, no one cares. Either way, you can tell me. Yeah, I just really hope this helped. It really helped me as talk therapy, and yeah, I hope it's helpful. I think I had some pretty good tips in there. I hope. So I'm rambling. I hope you enjoyed. Leave anything down below. And I'm gonna say I'll see you in my next video, but I don't make regular videos anymore, so I may not be able to do that. But anyway, if I make another video, I will see you in my next video. Follow me on my social media if you want to see more of me. That should all be linked below. And yeah, so if you want to take a deep dive into my personal life, because I put a lot of personal things out on my social media, follow me on social media. But I won't be hurt if you don't do that either. Anyway, I really am rambling. I have lost 2 charges of my battery while doing this, so I'm gonna go. I will see you when I see you. Bye, guys.